Anyway, buddy, welcome along to the Italian Grand Prix in Tier 1. My name is ISRL. Welcome along to Tier 1 action. It has been a very interesting intro, but there was a little bit of reverb on our end. But nonetheless, we are live here at the Monza circuit, and I can't wait to get started.
Oh, I'm excited to get started as well, as we've just loaded into the qualifying one session here. Thanks for having me once again here in the commentators booth for Tier 1, and with this full 20 driver grid, I'm excited to see what everyone has in store here, especially since I believe we might have at least a new face here for Tier 1. That's Real Chad 77 sitting in that McLaren car. Gave a very strong impression around Monza in the Tier 2 race, so here reserving in Tier 1. So we'll see what he can do and potentially help the McLaren team out in that battle for the Constructors' Championship, as they're currently tied with the Ferrari team for P2 with 2 races to go pretty much.
We also have a few other drivers currently. Korn Nijkamp is also on the grid in the Racing Point. We also have Jerome Visser back on the grid in the AlphaTauri. And we also have some of our familiar new faces. Santareka is back on the grid today. Good to have him back. And it's going to be an exciting race for sure. Young Stinson also back on the grid after that very disappointing race in Bahrain where he was pretty far up the grid. But unfortunately, a crash at the beginning of the race ended it null and void. And Yuklund also on the grid today. Of course, a very impressive performance from him in his debut race. And he's coming out of the pit lane right now in the Renault F1 car.
Oh yeah, and I definitely keep an eye out on those on both Renault drivers. From what I saw, at least in terms of the tryout Young Stinson did about a week ago or so now, definitely showed he had the pace to compete with the likes of the leaders here in the in Tier 1. Potentially having a not having the race he was hoping for last week, but hoping to rebound this week here around Monza, which is a bit more of a speed-based track, as they do call it the Temple of Speed here. As I'm watching Andon going around on his out lap, starting his flying lap just to kick things off here. But it looks like he did invalidate cutting the parabolic turn right at the end.
Now, I just want to mention, so I don't know if one of you have the stream up, but I am getting reverb on my end. I'm just hearing myself twice.
Yeah, I'll get the stream up just to see if it's an issue for the stream as well. So I'll just mute myself for a little bit while I've got that going.
Nonetheless, we are underway right now in Tier 1 with ISRL Carter on board right now with him in the blacked out Mercedes going around towards the end of Sector 1. We'll see what he can do today. Of course, the qualifying sessions for the Mercedes drivers have been very inconsistent and at times downright terrible. So hopefully they can have a good result here today in Monza and get some good points on the board. And we are just waiting to see. Here's Josh 2 as he was coming around track. He did have, it looked like, one of the Racing Points in front of him. I'm not too sure who that was. That was Andon, who has invalidated his lap. And I believe so it sounds like the reverb is better now, so thankfully we should be good to go for the rest of the stream. Josh 2 is about to come across the line, and the Ferrari set a 1:18.8 to start off the day here in Q1. So, of course, just going over the classifications, the rules, and everything here in the qualifying. It's 3 qualifying sessions, Q1, Q2, and Q3, 18 minutes, 15 minutes, and 12 minutes, respectively. Drivers will go out, set times, and depending on if they're in the bottom 5 of each session, they will be knocked out of qualifying until Q3, which is the fight for pole position. URC rotation is such a much slower time by about 10 seconds and goes into P2, and I'm sure that's going to be beaten rather easily here in Q1. Feral Fury, 119.6, and he goes P2 behind Josh 2. The Ferrari's looking to rebound today after what was not the most impressive performance at the Bahrain International Circuit, and we'll see if, in fact, they can do that, as the Euclid goes second fastest, ahead of Feral Fury with 119.1, almost into the 118. Josh 2 still the only man currently in the 118. Sweet Crown 19 back on the grid. Chappelle goes fastest, 118.5. Let's see what Sweet Crown 19 can do. He's going to only go P3, actually, 118.9, just into the 118. So Josh 2, Chappelle, and Sweet Crown 19 are the men in the 118s at the moment. The other drivers of store still coming in, as we still have a lot of times to set.
Yep, of course, very nice lap from Chappelle, from Chappelle with that 118.5. Josh, too, showing that Ferrari's got pace very early on with that 118.8. And, of course, as we expect to see, Sweet Crown 19 with another strong qualifying showing, bringing that Williams car up into third. Now, as you were talking about in terms of the with the qualifying and how it works, in terms of Q1 specifically, have to remain in the top 50 or within the top 15 to make it through into qualifying too. So you just want to make sure you're not in those in that bottom 5, 16 to 20 for qualifying 1. If you're looking to make it through, as Cohen sets a 119.6. So a little bit of a gap between 4th and 5th, as Eklund's 119.1 makes another strong showing from him with that Renault car, showing he's got the pace here in Tier 1, at least early on once again, here around Monza.
So in the P5 for the Racing Point is Cohen. So we have a few drivers still without times. In fact, quite most of the grid without times. Though VR46 Yarno is coming around track. He just passed a Ferrari that looked to be Sophion coming down towards the Ascari chicane, and Yarno navigates it just about as well as he can. A little unstable at the rear, and in fact goes a little too wide out of the exit. You have to be very careful. It's one of the main locations of invalidations here in Monza, is the exit of Ascari, going a little bit too wide in order to avoid the exit curve, which can spin you out, can result in invalidation. So Yarno and many other drivers will look to avoid that part of the track as they get further into qualifying and, in fact, the race, of course, because you do not want to be picking up penalties in a race like Italy, where you're not going to see a lot of other drivers most likely getting a lot of those 3-second time penalties, given there's not a lot of places to cut where you're actually going to gain a considerable amount of time. So drivers are going to want to keep tidy here and not cause too many incidents where they're going to be picking up penalties. The Ascari chicane and the exit are the main areas to watch for today. The two chicanes at the beginning of the lap, not really locations where most drivers cut, so you shouldn't see too many issues there. And of course the Lesmos and the other high-speed turns like the Parabolica, you're not really going to be seeing too many penalties given out unless you go a little too wide in the Parabolica. I'm riding on board right now with ISRL Knight in the Red Bull car. Of course, as we've mentioned, the Red Bull drivers have not been having a great go of it the last few races here in Italy, looking to have a bit of a rebound. We know Knight can get good performances as long as he keeps his head down. In fact, he goes fastest in the first sector in that Red Bull car. A little iffy in the chicane, a little bit of hesitation as he goes into the first chicane and then through the first Lesmo. Doesn't really keep it too tight, but keeps it in the track, within the track, uses as much curb as possible. In fact, uses too much curb, and Knight now has, in fact, invalidated his lap. Josh 2 is retired from the session in the pit lane, so he is pretty happy with her. He is currently P1 in Q1, and that's a time that will surely bring him into the next qualifying session, as I think somebody else just set a faster time, and that was Real Chad. Real Chad goes P3, 118.6.
Yep, I was riding with them. Another very solid lap from Real Chad. He has put in a lot of work this week to put out a strong first impression here, and really paying off for him. Not only taking a win in the Tier 2 race and or having a very, very strong finish, and now already sitting in a third position in qualifying 1, breaking into the 118s with that 118.623. So another strong showing from the McLaren driver here again in the Tier 1 race, or in the Tier 1 qualifying.
And as we're riding on board, Do Will looks to be has finished another lap as well. He is P4 at the moment, ahead of Sweet Crown 19, who's on a outlap again. has dropped down to P5 after initially being P3 at the beginning of the session. Euclid P6 at the moment with a 119.1, a never good showing for him as well. The new drivers really putting in some strong performances here. Here is young Stinson as he comes around the Parabolica to end his lap. He is going to go into P4. So young Stinson has a very nice start to his Q1 journey. Goes into P4. He'll be happy with that lap with about 8 minutes and a half to go in the first qualifying session, as he is looking to make it into the next session pretty comfortably, I must say. ISRL Carter is on an outlap as he invalidated his first lap and will be looking to set a new one again as he's about to come around the Parabolica and start another lap. Jerome Visser passes his teammate in the AlphaTauri as Jerome Visser coming into the Ascari chicane. We'll see how he navigates it here, and a little wide, and he's going to have to remain cautious here. He does not invalidate, but it was not the best Ascari chicane that we've ever seen before as he's coming down the straight towards the Parabolica, and he is going to flinging around the Parabolica. Ooh, a little bit clip of the curb. Not what you want to do. And again, right here, he did run a little wide, but he did not invalidate his time, and he is going to go P9. So it is a 119.1 where a few drivers are currently sitting, but it was not the most clean lap. So he'll be looking to set another one hopefully soon and get in a better time and more comfortably make it into the next qualifying session. No 1 minute 20 times so far in the session, as Santaruca is currently on a time coming through the first Lesmo and then now the second Lesmo. And he's actually not using any DRS, so and it looks like no ERS, so it doesn't look like he's actually setting a time right now. This might be on a number. Oh, and that's Carter into the wall and out of the exit of Ascari, and ISRL Carter is out of qualifying for the Italian Grand Prix. He just came out of the exit of Ascari and clipped too much of the curb, and he has been spun around, and the front tire is gone, and that is disaster for the Mercedes team. Another difficult qualifying session. Carter leaves the session in frustration. Carter is out of qualifying and will be at the back of the grid here today. And that was a massive, massive moment out of Ascari, and it's resulted in a crash and a out of qualifying for ISRL Carter, and it doesn't look like he's going to be participating here today. Much frustration at the start of the session.
Nope, not what he was hoping for coming into Italy with a crash out of qualifying one. But we've seen all weekend the exit of the Ascari complex has been very difficult, very easy to clip the curb on the inside, and if you clip it too much, sometimes the time penalty is the least of your worries as you end up losing the car, as we saw Carter do. And unfortunately for him, it brought out the worst possible result. But of course, as much as qualifying didn't work out for him, it is a very long race. So
right, but he's not in the session anymore. He actually left the race.
That's the thing. So if he does come back in the session, and if he is able to make it back in time for the race, there's still possibility to work your way back up the grid.
And I have to.
What did you see there?
I have to interrupt you again because another driver has invalidated, and this time it's again ISRL Knight without a time here in the session. His teammate Gurman, further up the track, goes in the P11. That's not really too safe, but hopefully he can make it into the next session if he is lucky enough, if some drivers don't increase their times. But there's only 5 minutes to go in the session. Knight will go into the pits one more time, put on a new set of tires, and hopefully he can make himself into the next session, but not the start to qualifying, or really the entire qualifying session that Knight would like to have, still without a time. Of course, Carter, one of the drivers without a time, and End of the World was without a time, but he only goes P16 with a 119.6 in the Haas, and that is not where he'd like to be, pretty far down the grid. It is a very long race, but Italy is not what I would necessarily call the most amazing passing track. A lot of DRS trains can start to develop, and there aren't a lot of locations that I would consider to be amazing battling locations. You can make mistakes. The first chicane is an area, and the second chicane, the Lesmos are a bit too difficult, and very rarely do you see passes at Ascari. So I think that around here in Italy, it's going to be crucial to actually get further up the grid to secure better points throughout the race. It's going to be difficult to make your places up besides the start.
Yeah, definitely the start, and I believe just generally the start-finish straight, because of course your exit of Parabolica, the line you take and the speed you're able to carry, can really make a difference in terms of the exit you get and the speed you can bring into that start-finish straight to barrel down for an overtake into turn 1, DRS train or not. But I do feel that is probably going to be where we're going to see the most amount of overtakes. And other than that, just really pressure to make the driver in front of you make mistakes and capitalize on the mistakes that they make to work your way up the grid. Now, of course, these are fantastic drivers, all of them, but mistakes happen, of course, as we've seen before. So it's really a matter of capitalizing, and as we mentioned earlier, keeping clean and not taking too many penalties.
I was just riding aboard a Feral Fury who got away with a little bit of an exit of Ascari there, but he is going into the pit lane. Only P12 at the moment for Feral Fury, so not the qualifying performance we're used to seeing out of the Williams driver. In fact, he's a bit in danger right now with only 2 minutes and 50 seconds left to go. It's going to be tight coming out if he does, in fact, want to set another lap here in the session. As I'm looking on board again with Yarno as he's coming with another lap in hot lap mode, so he is definitely on a lap right now, and we'll see what he can do. Coming through the second Lesmo, looks to be okay, using a lot of the curb, no invalidation though. Now onto that DRS straight before the Ascari chicane. We'll see what he can do. Heading under that Emirates ad right there into Ascari, using a much better parts of his car. Ooh, a bit of an unsettling out of the rear, though, as he clipped a bit of the curb there. As you said before, it can be very dangerous clipping too much of that curb. Again, penalties, the least severe worries if you're going to be spinning around. VR36 Yarno, though, of course, coming around the Parabolica, keeping it nice and tidy, using as much track as possible, but no, he's going to go into the pits, so he was not happy with that time. And he goes into the pit lane. That's very interesting with only being P16. In fact, I don't think he's going to be able to get around for another lap. I think this is it for him in qualifying. With only a minute 40 to go, I don't think Yarno has the time to make it out. His pit crew is going to have to be very, very quick if he has any chance of making it around for another lap. So Fion is not on a lap, but he will be soon in that Ferrari. Of course, this is the home track for the Italian teams. Most importantly, the Ferrari drivers. Josh 2 is P1 in this session, will probably remain P1, so Fion is very close to elimination territory. But as number 81 Ferrari SF1000 comes around the Parabolica, he'll look to change that on this lap. And you want to take us through, Eric, on this lap?
Yeah, let's take a look. So coming through the start-finish straight, of course, barreling down into turn 1 and 2. It is possible to clip the inside corner, of turn 1 without taking too much of a penalty. Like you said, turn 2, keep it clean, stay on track. You'll make a costly mistake if you clip that inside corner for turn 2. Afterwards, the long swooping right-hander of Curva Grande. Looks like Sophion doing a very good job sticking to the inside until the very last moment, taking the nice line into turns 4 and 5. Another chicane, a little bit quicker than turn 1 and 2, but still relatively tight, and then coming into the Lesmos. Lesmos 1, down into 5th, putting on the power early to bring a lot of momentum through into Lesmos 2. This is where the exit really matters, because of course you got the DRS straight that leads into the Ascari complex, as we're going to see Sophion come through in just a few moments. Down on the brakes, you can cut the inside corner, as we saw there. Nice riding the curb. Doesn't look like he takes too much on the exit there. Has a nice exit, of course. And now nearly home free, as he only has Parabolica left to handle before finishing off the lap. We see the entrance here. You got to carry a lot of speed and maybe kick it to the outside. But of course, you want to take the quickest line to the start-finish line. So when he crosses the line, good enough for 12th to the 119.2. But potentially could be faster, but still in a decent spot, I would say, with the end of qualifying, as I'm seeing Andon doing a little bit of off-roading on the circuit.
We also have Feral Fury about to come into Ascari, actually, as the Andon was coming back on track. Hopefully this doesn't mess up his lap at all. In fact, he is far ahead. but Feral Fury could get a little bit of slipstream, but he does not bother with it. Feral Fury only sitting 13th at the moment, though he should be good to go in the make into the next session. Not a lot of drivers behind him going to be able to set new times. The ISRL Knight does not go out again for another time. Here comes Feral Fury across the line. Going to go P11, improve his time. That puts Sophion down to P13. Andon is going to come into the pit lane. And
I think Sophion's safe.
Yeah, Sophion is safe because nobody's going yet. Nobody's going to be setting any more times. So, and Sophion is safe, though he does drop down the P13 with the P11 set by Feral Fury. So that is it for Q1. A few drivers who are going to be disappointed in this session are going to be VR46 Yarno, End of the World, Cohen, Nick Jamp in P18. He was actually pretty far up the grid at first at the beginning of the session. Not the case so far. Of course, Knight did in fact set a time, but it is a 1:19.7. Carter is the only driver without a time. He has left the session. He had a crash out of the exit of Ascari. That's it for him in qualifying, and it may be it for him in the race, should he not come back into the lobby. But riding on board right there, Feral Fury, the last driver to set a time, and he, in fact, makes it into Q2. So both Williams into the next session. So are both of the Ferraris. But Josh, too, is provisional P1, and he will go P1 here in Q1 with Chappelle P3, third for Chad, and fourth for Stinson, Sweetcrown 19, rounding off the top 5. And we have Yukun, Gurman, Rotation, Jamian, Duwill, Feral Fury, Jerome, Sophion, Andon, and Santa Ruca makes it into the next session. You'll be happy with that. So we now move on to Q2, and there's two important things to think about as you make it into the second qualifying session. First, whether or not you can make it in the Q3, the battle for pole position in this race, and maybe more importantly for some, making it into the top 10 in Q3, the tire you set your fastest lap time on is the tire you will start on in the race. Of course, if you don't make it into the top 10, you do have free choice of tire compound. I think a majority of drivers may try to do a medium strat, go from medium to hard and make it a one-stop strategy. I don't think a lot of drivers are going to be electing to do a softer tire compound come Q2.
Yeah, of course, as what we saw in a lot of well, funny enough, actually, while you're mentioning that, I'm seeing 4 drivers looking to put on the medium tires, but I'm not too sure if they're actually going out to set some times early on with the medium tires. Now, if the Q2 race is anything to say about strategy, most of the drivers, top 10 or not, all started on the soft tires, really banking for that early safety car. Now, of course, we've seen Tier 1 races end up being a bit more clean, just given the skill of all the drivers, so maybe not as much risk of the safety car compared to some of the other tiers, but it still is a factor, especially lap 1, turn 1, and especially early on when all the drivers are bunched together, battling it out for position. And that could maybe put you at a strategy advantage starting on those softer tires as well. But I guess we'll have to see how things play out, as it looks like we have Feral Fury leading the way on the out laps to kick things off here in qualifying too.
He is on the medium compound tire, so is Sweetcrown 19. So a few drivers venturing out on the medium tires. We'll see if that stays that way. Most drivers actually are electing to go on the soft compound tire, so they're probably thinking a 2-stop may be the faster strategy, but we'll have to wait and see if that in fact is the case. Sweetcrown 19 still in the pit lane, though, so he's not come out. We'll see if he elects to come out on that medium compound tire. But Feral Fury, round Parabolica, is about to start his first lap in Q2. 15 minutes we started with. We are now at about 13 minutes as he starts his qualifying lap. As we ride on board of him in the Williams car, coming into the chicane in turn 1, a bit of a lockup, using as much of the curb as possible on the exit, not rotating the car too much, keeps it nice and steady. Now through the Curva Grande, keeping it nice and close to the curb, as you said before, and he does keep it nice and close to the curb, but keeps it very close all the way, but he does, of course, go purple in Sector 1. Now into the next chicane, a bit of a lockup, and he does, he actually overcooks the car and into the wall. Carter has joined back in the session, nice to see that, but Feral Fury has really overcooked the tires right there on the mediums. He is still in the session, but a major chunk of that front wing has been dislodged onto the track here in Monza, and he is going to have to go back in the pit lane. So Feral Fury, not a good first adventure out in qualifying. The furthest man, well, the man behind him was URC Rotation, who has gone fastest in the second sector. He has FRL Chappelle ahead of him, his teammate, who's going to give him some slipstream coming towards the Parabolica. Some team play coming into now with the Alfa Romeo drivers, and FRL Chappelle getting out of the way before now out of the Parabolica URC Rotation is about to be, as he now is going to come across the line. We'll see what Rotation sets here. It's going to be a 1:18.9. So even with the slipstream, it's not the fastest time we've seen in that 1:18 category from the Alfa Romeo driver. Josh 2, 1:19.6, a little bit further off the pace than his Q1 time, but still P2 at the moment with a lot of drivers still to set times. Feral Fury will come into the pit lane most likely and not set a time. Gurman is on a lap and has gone fastest in the first sector so far. Real Chad is on a lap in the McLaren, coming through the first Lesmo and now about to come through the second Lesmo as he barrels through there using as much curb as possible. Nice and steady, a little wobble out of the rear, but nothing to complain about too much so. Andon in the Racing Point is about to come around out of Parabolica. We'll see what time he can set coming across the line, and he is going to go P3 with a 1:20.0, but that is not a time indicative of a Q3 qualification time. So nonetheless, Real Chad is about to come towards the Parabolica. Let's see what Real Chad can do on the soft compound tire in that McLaren coming around Parabolica. Going to come close to the line. Let's see what this time's going to be a good one. It's going to be a 1:18.8, and that's going to be the fastest time right now in Q2 for Real Chad. ISRL Gurman goes P2, 1:18.8 as well, only a hundredth of a second off just about of Real Chad's time, so a really nice time from ISRL Gurman as he goes into P2. His teammate did not make it into the next qualifying session with him, so Gurman, it's up to him for the Red Bull team to get a good track position here in the race today.
Yep, and looking at other drivers looking to set some time. Sucro 19 actually invalidated his time, so we're seeing him go into the pits. Santarek, I'm riding with him, crosses the line with a 1:20.6, so not the quickest time and definitely not a time that will get him into qualifying 3, so might be looking to pick up the pace later on in the session if he wants to be able to attempt that top 10 shootout. Eklund as well, coming through the second Lesmos. We've seen him have pace, so we'll see if on those soft tires he can challenge that 1:18.8. That's currently the best time on the board, set by Real Chad 77 in that McLaren. Looks like he's taking Ascari pretty well. Clips a little bit of that corner, so might lose a little bit of speed and a little bit of time on the exit of Ascari, but as he's coming through into Parabolica, we'll have to see what kind of time he can set. Might actually have a little bit of help to the line in the form of ISRL Gurnman as he's catching right up to him. Not necessarily, as Gurnman dives right into the pits. And that's actually good enough for P3 with a 1:18.8. So still very close, at least in terms of the top 3, all within, oh my goodness, maybe about 4 100ths of a second between first and third so far.
Jerome Visser comes out of Ascari and is now coming towards the Parabolica. There in the AlphaTauri, he has a Haas and Do Will a little bit further down the grid, as look at this chest very close to a invalidation on this lap. He's going to come across the line. Go fastest, Jerome Visser, 1:18.7. A very nice time from him. Do Will is about to come across the line in the Haas. Let's see what he can do. Comes out, and he is going to go P5 with a 1:18.8, so a good time from Do Will. About half the grid has set their time so far. Young Stinson has come through the first Parabolica, now about to come through the second. He didn't use too much of the curbs there in that first Lesmo, uses a little bit more in the second. Young Stinson now will put on the DRS using as much ERS as possible, maximum speed coming into the Ascari chicane. There's a yellow flag in Sector 1 that looked to be for Do Will slowing up a little bit. A little unstable out of the rear. Young Stinson almost losing the car as he has an invalidation, but he will be more than happy for just the invalidation because he almost lost the car and had it go into the wall there out of the exit out of Ascari. So Young Stinson having some trouble right now here in Monza. And still a few drivers on outlap. Sweetcar 19 on an outlap. He did invalidate his first lap, looking to get a good one here today. ISRL Chappelle has still not yet set a time in this session, as he is on an outlap right now looking to set a good one as he's coming through Curva Grande and will be starting his lap soon. As Jerome Visser, as we said before, P1 at the moment. A good shot of making it into Q3. That was set on the soft compound tire, I believe. So he will be looking to start on the softs in this race.
Yep, so Jeroen Visser did indeed set that time on the soft tires. You were talking about Chappelle looking to go out in his outlap to set a time. He's actually on the medium tires. So looking to potentially bring that car into the top 10 with the medium tires to get that strategy advantage. We have seen in the past he does have the pace. So if anybody can pull off this strategy at the end of qualifying, at the end of Q2, it is Chappelle. Sweet Crown 19, the champion, the winner of the Tier 1 championship, is out on a flying lap right now on the soft tires as he's coming through Ascari, looking to be pretty clean so far. Clips a little bit of that inside curb, but just barely stays within the track limits, so no invalidation for him as he's coming down into Parabolica. So we'll see what time he can set in his first lap of Q2, and actually has Feral Fury right in front of him, his teammate. I'm not too sure if that was planned or some miscommunication there, as they're getting a little bit of a tow, and Suicar 19 only coming in 6th with a 118.852.
And Josh 2, just ahead of him, and number 22 has gone into P1 again. So Josh 2, so far in this session and in the last session, has been on fire. With a 118.6, he goes into provisional P1 with 5 minutes and a half left to go in the session. Josh 2 on a roll right now in the Ferrari, looking to put on a show for the virtual Tifosi here in Monza, and looking to get on pole position, hopefully, into Q3. But Q3 is another beast on its own. Maximum pace, maximum output of the car is required. Can Josh 2 put it all together? Fastest in the first 2 sessions so far. We'll see if that stays that way, as we are about to have 5 minutes come and go in Q2, as we just hit under 5 minutes left to go in the session. Most drivers with times, drivers without times right now, are Young Stinson on an outlap. Feral Fury is on a lap, with Chappelle about to start his lap as well, as here comes Feral Fury. Gonna come across the line here, and he is going to go P9. So that puts him into the next qualifying session, and in now in elimination territory there in P10. ISRL Chappelle, though, is on a lap.
Oh no, and that was just as I switched to him, Jamie 1 was out on a flying lap, gets caught up in the Ascari complex carrying a little bit too much speed, and ends up right into the wall at the exit of Ascari. So that's Jamie 1's qualifying over and done with, and he'll be starting in a loathsome P13 after that incident.
Well, P13, or is there? Are there
P15?
Yeah, P15.
Apologies about that. Yeah, P15, not P13. My mind jumped to Chappelle, who I wanted to jump with to see how he was doing in his lap. Actually invalidates with those medium tires, and now with 3 minutes and 45 seconds to go, just about, could be cutting it a little bit close if he's going to be looking to dive into the pits and get a fresh set of tires on. As Sweetcar 19 leaves the session now, so it looks like maybe some connection issues from him as well, but currently sitting in 6th, so relatively comfortable, I guess, with 3.5 minutes now to make it through into Q3.
Real Chad also just left the session as well, so that's interesting. I don't know if we're getting a bit of a disconnection issues across the grid, but nonetheless, we have Real Chad right there in P3, so he sits in a good position nonetheless, should he be able to come back into the grid. Feral Fury sitting P8, ahead of Rotation. Andon still in P10. Chappelle still in the pit lane, should be coming out again soon. So Theon is, ooh, he overcooks the car, and that's the same place that Feral Fury overcooked the car, and he goes into the wall with wing damage. And that's probably going to spell the end for Sophion here in qualifying, and he is all the way down in P14, and it is not the same fortunes that he has with his teammate Josh 2. So Theon way down the grid there in P14. Jamie, and as we mentioned before, that's the same place that his teammate Carter also had his accident, Sweetcar 19, back in the lobby. But that's the same place that both of the Mercedes now have had that accident. So not a good place to be if you are a Mercedes driver. Jamie in P15 and Carter all the way down in P20. More woes for the Black Arrows here in Monza.
Yep, and I'm riding with young Stinson. His 124.5 was the first time he had on the board. Looking much quicker this time around, taking 4 seconds off his time in out of the second sector alone. And as he's coming around Parabolica here with a minute and 45 seconds to go, we'll see if he can break into the top 10. Currently in 12th, and correction, now currently sitting in 6th, setting a 118.8. So really basically matching his teammate in terms of qualifying pace in Q2, and they're both looking they're both looking like they'll be able to make it through into qualifying 3. But of course, lots can change here with a minute and 20 to go, and lots of drivers now going out on their out lap to potentially set their last laps of qualifying too.
ISRL Chappelle is one of those drivers. Santaruca retires from the session. He is at P4 right now. Both McLarens in a really nice spot right now. Isaac Kush not on the grid with a ban from the Italian Grand Prix. So Real Chad and Santaruca looking to keep it up for the McLaren drivers here today. As ISRL Chappelle is going to come across the line, and he is going to start, will be his final lap here in Q2. Can the man in the Alfa Romeo get his car into the next session? URC Rotation currently on the cusp of elimination as well. He is currently P11, and he is going to start his final lap as well. Andon is coming out of Parabolica just about with 30 seconds left to go. Andon will be starting his final lap in the session. So a few drivers are now going to be coming out for laps. Duo and Sweet Crown 19 are both on out laps, so they're looking to go a little faster. They're on the verge of elimination. Feral Fury is only P10 and is in a good chance of possibly getting knocked out of the Q2 session here, given that 3 very quick drivers behind him are looking to set laps. ISRL Chappelle goes fastest in the first sector there in the Alfa Romeo. Sorry, the second sector goes fastest. So really looking strong right now. Goes through Ascari about as beautifully as you can. Not too much interruption from the rear end there. ISRL Chappelle now coming into the Parabolica. Let's see what Chappelle can do here in the Alfa Romeo as he's coming out of Parabolica. And let's see what the time is going to be for Chappelle. Comes across the line, and it's going to be P1, 118.2. Wow. A very impressive time from him. URC Rotation, his teammate, is coming across the line just about now, coming through Parabolica. Here comes Rotation, using as quick a line as possible. Comes across the line. He will go P2, and it's a 1-2 in Q2 for the Alfa Romeo drivers. Very impressive from them. Andon now is going to come into next turn. Sweet Crown 19 is on the cusp of elimination, and he is invalidated this time. Duwil is now going to come across the line. Sweet Crown 19 on the verge of elimination here. Andon does not improve, so it's only up to Duwil. Can Duwil go faster than Sweet Crown 19? It's only up hundredths of a second that's needed to improve on this time. Duo comes across the line, and he will go P4. Sweet Crown 19 is out of qualifying here in Q2. He comes across the line, and it would have been a faster time, but it's an invalidation, and he's only going to stay P11, and he will be kicking himself for that elimination here in Q2. The championship may be over, but the bragging rights will remain, and both Williams, for the first time in quite a while, are out of this qualifying session. Chappelle and Chad actually went P2 at the end there in the session, so it was a 1-2 for the Alfa Romeo drivers in Q2, but Chappelle first fastest, Chad second fastest, third Rotation, P4 for Josh 2, and Will in the top 5. Jerome Visser in the AlphaTauri, and 7 for Santaruca. He gets into the next session. Pretty happy with that. Gurman puts a good one for the Red Bull drivers, going P8. And Young Stinson and Euclid in the Renaults, they will be in P9 and 10th respectively. So a very exciting Q2 with some very shock eliminations here, as this has been qualifying 2 for the Tier 1 World Championship. Thank you, everybody, for watching live. This is the Italian Grand Prix live coverage of the Tier 1 Formula 1 World Championship. If you're enjoying the stream, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the ISRL Esports YouTube channel. And if you enjoy the content and you don't want to miss it, make sure to hit that notification bell so you never miss a video or live stream from the YouTube page. If you're interested in joining, go to ISRLesports.com and join the Discord server where you can learn about all of our information about the league. And it's Christmas time and you want to get yourself a nice gift, get a gift for somebody else, then you can head over to imbracewear.com and head over to the ISRL Esports collection and grab yourself some awesome merch for either yourself or a friend. And if you're a driver, get your own name on the back because we have some official driver numbers on our merch. Now, I want to mention here, even more exciting than the merch, there is rainfall here in Monza. So it is now very interesting. Everybody is coming out now to set times here because the rain is coming down here in Q3, which means it is go, go, go for everybody here in qualifying. So these laps are probably going to be the fastest ones in the session. Everybody coming out on that soft compound tire. Young Stinson still in the pit lane. This is not good for him. He needs to get out of here ASAP in order to set a time. ISRL Gurman is the furthest man ahead of everybody, it looks like, and he is rushing it. He's already invalidated this L lap, so he is going to have to get a time on the board quickly before these soft tires start to become null and void here in this race.
Yep, and you actually took the words right out of my mouth there. I was just about to say, it looks like we're seeing some rain here in this top 10 shootout. So, yeah, every driver other than young Stinson, who still now is sitting in the pit lane. So the question really is, will this rain pick up, or will it just stay like this kind of slow rainfall for the entirety of Q3? And also, what does this have to say about the race? Are we going to see potentially a rainy race as well, as I don't think we've received any weather updates, and I haven't seen any in terms of my pit wall information either, at least thus far. So it's still anybody's guess as to what's going to happen with the race, but it seems like for the time being, just about every driver is looking to get a time on the board sooner rather than later,
now,
potentially indicating the rain is going to worsen.
If you're Gurman, you're probably the least popular person right now, at least you're the least unhappy person, or sorry, the least happy person right now, because you're the man leading the slipstream charge right now. URC Rotation in a pretty good position behind his teammate, so it is a bit of a DRS train for everybody, and some slipstream train. Oh, but Rotation has an invalidation, not what he needed, with the possibility of the rain really coming down harder in the next parts of the session here, as F. Chappelle invalidates his lap. So both of the Alfa Romeos have invalidated their times. So not good right now. ISRL Gurman is still good to go. He's about to come across the line. The rain is getting a little bit more tough, as I can see more raindrops starting to fall down here in Monza, and the track is only going to get worse from here. Gurman comes across the line, 1:19.2. Euclid is still on a valid time, but both of the Alfa Romeo drivers not on times, and they're just going to come around for another one because they have to, basically. Santa Ruca doesn't have a valid time. Real Chad does, though. In fact, behind his teammate, pretty close, so he might be able to set a really awesome time here. He's going to go P2. Josh 2 goes P3, Duo P4, and Jerome has gone P5. So the other half of the grid, they simply couldn't get times on the board, but Euclid actually goes P3. So a very interesting top 3 right now here in qualifying. But can these drivers get good times as the rain continues to come down? It's coming down harder now more than before, and it's going to be very difficult for them to get these soft tires to work, both with the wear of the first lap and now with the rain coming down. So Rotation is now coming down the DRS straight before the Ascari chicane. Can Rotation get a good time on the board as he is about to come through? And no, he's going to go fastest in the second sector, though, so here he goes, coming through Ascari, and it's still good to go. Rotation might upset here. Can he make it into P1? Can he get pole position for the first time here in Tier 1? Santa Ruca also now coming through Ascari. Not a purple second sector, though, for him. Rotation now coming through the Parabolica, now on towards the start-finish line. He will go P3. So in the P3, goes ahead of Euclid. And Efro Chappelle is on, it says he's on an out lap, so he must have gone into the pit lane center.
Yeah, I was about to mention that URC Rotation opted to stay out and set another lap on those same set of tires, but Chappelle decided to do the opposite strategy, go into the pits, put a fresh set of boots on, and come back out on track to set a lap a little bit later into the session. So we'll have to see in terms of the weather and the rain potentially picking up or not, if that's going to pay to his advantage or if that's going to hinder him. As still now, young Stinson looks like he's just now coming out of the pits to start his out lap. So missing out on the, I guess, the initial first lap carnage that everybody else was going through. And, oh, you do not want to see that. Just cutting right through turns 1 and turn 2 on his out lap to hurry around and get a flying lap. Not what you want to see in qualifying.
And a young Stinson there is coming, and now Efro Chappelle is going to come around again on new soft compound tires. Now, the rain has not progressed into what we would call intermediate conditions. It's still that iffy intermediate section of the rain here. Is it going to get any heavier? The rain actually looks to be maybe a little lighter than before, but it's kind of hard to tell. But nonetheless, Efro Chappelle is going to try to set a good time here, but as the rain comes down, the track becomes harder to race. But Chappelle did not set a fastest first sector, so it is going to be difficult for Efro Chappelle here to get faster in this session. He's only P10, and he may not go higher than P5 unless he has a really nice lap. But look at Gurman and Real Chad. 1, 2, 3rd for rotation. Euclid and P4, Josh 2, and P5. It is a very interesting Q3 session. Chappelle has gone fastest in the second sector out of the exit of Iscari on the very, very limit of elimination there, but he keeps it within track conditions and track width. And here comes Efro Chappelle, going to come around the Parabolica. What will Chappelle do here in the Alfa Romeo, using a very wide line, then cutting in towards the line? Chappelle goes P4, and that's a very respectable time given the track conditions. So it is a second row for the Alfa Romeo drivers. They're putting on the show for the Tifosi at the moment. Gurman has retired from the session, so he is more than comfortable with his time. In fact, it may give him pole position here in the Italian Grand Prix. And what a reversal of fortunes for the Red Bull drivers here. This will be their best qualifying so far this season. If that stays the case, they're in pole position.
Yeah, but with 4 minutes to go and the rain not really showing much sign of truly picking up as I thought it would, at least early on, it looks like, at least for now, lots of drivers out on their out lap, out on their flying laps, and still opting for those slick tires. So with 4 minutes to go, I believe we might still see some potential changes to the order. But it really did pay off for Gurman, being the first driver out on track and setting an early time when the track was potentially as well at its driest. As I'm seeing Chappelle invalidates his time as he's coming around. See, young Stinson, he's at a 120.4, so not the time he was hoping for through his flying lap. So currently sitting in 10th as well. Now, who else is about to cross the line?
Well, I know Euclid is on a lap, and we're going to see what he can do in the second sector. Duo is retired from the session, only P7, so not happy with where he is. Oh, but I want to mention that Euclid does have a Ferrari ahead of him, but he is half a second
McLaren.
Slower. Oh, it's a McLaren, but it's an invalidation. So that is probably it for him in qualifying.
Yeah, potentially so, as there we go, Real Chad slowing down, letting him through. But still with 3 minutes to go, if he really wants to, he can go around and set one more lap potentially on those tires to see if he can improve. But it's looking like more and more, actually he's going into the pits now, as it looks like we're seeing lots of drivers now just opting to retire out of the qualifying session. Already 3 so far, Josh 2, Duwil, and Santireca. And it is a bit of an early retire, I feel, with still a little under 3 minutes to go, because normally that's still more than enough time to go out and get one more lap set, unless there is indication now that the rain is picking up.
He comes through the second chicane. And I'm sorry, I just want to go. I'm still on board of Real Chat here, as it's not looking too bad of a lap so far, but the real thing, has the track evolved or has it devolved? And Real Chat has a really bad run through the second Lesmo. In fact, he's going to abort this lap, and that is it for qualifying. Efro Chappelle actually is on an out lap on a new set of soft compound tires, so it's not over yet, but I believe it will be, as the rain, as we have said, is not going to be coming down any slower. It's going to be coming down faster and faster as the session goes on, but Efro Chappelle will try his best. It looks a little lighter on the stream at least, but I don't know if that is just the game or if there's actually a alleviation of rain in the session. But ISRL Gurman should have pole position here unless Chappelle, who will get around for another lap, has anything to say about it.
Yep, and I was looking, looks like Chad did retire on track. Thankfully, the car was able to pull out of the way, so not going to cause any, not going to hinder anybody's laps as we're riding with, well, I've got Chappelle here, and I think you do as well, taking us through the out lap. Looks like he might be struggling a little bit. In terms of the onboard, it looks like the rain is worse than what it was earlier in the session. As now is the only driver left to go in qualifying 3. So we'll see if he actually commits to the lap. It looks like he is committing to the lap. So we'll see him go around at least one more time for the final lap of qualifying 3. So can Chappelle firstly improve on that 119.5, and secondly, is he going to have enough pace at the end of qualifying to better the 119.265 that was set by ISRL Gurman right at the start of the session?
It's not a lot of tenths of a seconds between them, but it is rainy conditions here in Monza. In fact, he is slower in the first sector by about 0.2 of a second. And a bit of hesitation coming through the second chicane. Now into the Lesmos. Let's see how he can navigate these. And the rear looks okay. Oh, but that's an invalidation out of the first Lesmo. And that is it for Efro Chappelle. But ISRL Gurman is your man on pole position here today in the Italian Grand Prix, and he will be extremely happy to be the first man out on track, the man who got pole position. And there it is, ladies and gentlemen. ISRL Gurman, P1, Real Chad in P2, Rotation in P3, Chappelle is teaming out in P4, Euclid in P5, Josh Dew in 6th, 7th for Do Will, Jerome Visser in 8th, 9th for Santaruca, and Young Stinson in P10. And that was a very interesting qualifying 3, maybe not the most exhilarating, but maybe exhilarating if you're ISRL Gurman. The Red Bull drivers finally get a good qualifying on them, and this time it's from Gurman, who gets pole position here today in Monza, as that is it for qualifying. And now we move on towards the race. You are watching ISRL Esports live coverage of the Tier 1 Formula 1 World Championship. We're here in Monza for the Italian Grand Prix and are about to get set for action for this 50% distance race, as it is in fact sunny skies here in Monza, so no rainfall in the race, at least not for now, as we get set for action here. If you are enjoying the stream, again, leave a like. If you enjoyed the YouTube channel, make sure to subscribe. If you don't want to miss a video or live stream, hit that notification bell. If you're interested in joining, go to ISRLesports.com and go to the Discord server in order to learn more information about joining the league. And again, if you're interested in getting yourself a nice gift come Christmas time, head over to IMBRaceware.com and check out the ISRL Esports collection. Again, that's IMBRaceware.com. As we get set for the formation lap, we're just waiting for ISRL Knight to be the man who sets us off here in the next session, as we are just about to get ready for the formation lap. As Fall Monkeys, any predictions as we move into the race?
In terms of predictions, I'm actually not even going to go there, as I have a very bad habit of jinxing any driver who I predict to perform very well. But in terms of final comments, I finally got a peek over at the pit wall, and as we can see, it's looking like it's going to be a sunny start of the race, and looking as though it's just going to be sunny for the entire race. So contrarily to what we saw at the end of qualifying, it doesn't look like as if the weather is going to play too much of an effect here for the race, as it's just going to be a sunny Italian Grand Prix race here around Monza. But of course, the safety car is always looming and lingering, and could potentially throw the race on its head, depending on timings relative to what the drivers have in terms of pit stop strategies. Either probably a soft medium or a medium soft, I would think, would be the two go-to strategies, depending on what tires the drivers are choosing to start with in terms of 11th to 20th, as I believe the top 10 are all on soft tires.
So we're just waiting for Knight to start us off, and in fact, there he goes. He makes his check mark, and we are 30 seconds ago from the start of the formation lap. We'll have all our tires heated up for the 5 red lights. Again, this is the Italian Grand Prix, ISRL Esports. Thanks every one of you who is watching live right now, as your appreciated support is, again, well, it's appreciated, sure, as we are going into the closing rounds of the championship, as the formation lap is about to begin. The 1 red light comes on, and here we go. And starting on pole position for the first time is ISRL Gurman 25, as Real Chad 77 in P2, a nice debut start for him. URC rotation will be starting in P3 with Efro Chappelle in P4. Euclid rounding off the top 5 with Josh 2 in P6. The Ferrari man looking to get on pole position here today will start only in P6. Do Will in P7 with Jerome Bizzer in P8. Santa Ruca in P9. And rounding off the top 10 is Young Stinson. The first man in P11 is Sweet Crown 19, knocked out of Q2 in a surprise effort from the driver of Do Will, knocking him out of the session, as Feral Fury in P12 with Andon in P13, Sophion in P14, Jamian in P15 on the medium compound tire, with Yarno also on the medium compound tire, P16, P17 for End of the World, again, medium compound tire. We have Conan Nick Jamp on the 18th spot on the mediums, ISRL Knight on the mediums in P19, and Carter starts on the mediums in P20. So again, it's a soft medium or a soft hard strategy that is presented to you with F1 Insights, presented by Amazon Web Services, as there are going to be 27 laps around here in Monza as we just get set for the Temple of Speed to be roaring here today.
Yep, and just looking, you're talking about the tires, the soft and the mediums, positions 15 to 20 as you went through the order, all on the medium tires to start things off. But positions 1 through 14 all starting on the softs, so a bit of a division between the strategy, but keep an eye out on the likes of Jamie 1, VR46, End of the World, Cohen, Knight, and Carter on those medium tires, potentially end up the order. Come the pit stops, potentially being able to take those medium tires longer. And so definitely keep an eye out for them as this race plays on, as we might see them potentially battling for some much higher positions.
And here we go, ladies and gentlemen. All the cars are lining up on their grid positions, getting ready for the 5 red lights. It's the ISRL Esports Italian Grand Prix, presented to you by the ISRL Esports YouTube channel. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in live as we're just getting ready. The cars jolt a little bit as we're about to see those 5 red lights come on. And here we go. It is. We're just waiting. I'm just waiting for the 1 lights. It's 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights. And the lights are out, and away we go. It's a pretty long start there. Real Chad gets a really great start, and he's going to go in the P1 already. Real Chad leads the Italian Grand Prix, and now Gurman gets jumped by Efro Chappelle, and Efro Chappelle coming into turn 1 gets squeezed a little bit, and Gurman goes back in the P2, but he lost the position. The Real Chad has had an absolutely amazing start already, almost a second ahead of Gurman, and now Chappelle is looking to go around the outside of the Curva Grande, but he's not going to have it happen, and now Gurman trying to defend for his life.
Oh,
and,
no.
Ooh, there's a bit of contact.
That's Sweet Crown. Oh, I was just going to say, Sweet Crown 19 coming off very early in the Curva Grande, all the way down into 20th. So a lot of catch-up work to do. Oh my goodness, as Chappelle and Gernman battling it out for second and third, and Chappelle gets the better of Gernman.
So it was a great start for Real Chad, though. 1.2 seconds already he gets here in this race. So a very nice lead already here in Italy, outside of DRS detection range. ISRL Chappelle now looks to extend his advantage ahead of Gurman. URC Rotation in 4th position. There is a bit of a battle going down the field. It's the two Racing Points who are side by side coming out of Escari. And there is Cohen, who is going to come ahead of Andon. Andon will slot behind him, but now he's got Sophion who's going to pass him. Andon losing 2 positions. Now on the inside of the Ferrari, clips the curb a little bit there on the Parabolica. Gets a good exit though, and he's going to go still side by side of Sophion. Coming out of the exit of the Parabolica, he's got the slipstream of his teammate as well. DRS has now been enabled. I don't know reason why, because I don't even believe we've only finished 1 lap here, but it's saying lap number 3 nonetheless here in this race. But there's a lot of ghosting right now going on at the back of the grid, but Real Chad has lost that second advantage that he had, as ISRL Chappelle is really putting on the charge right now in this Italian Grand Prix, looking to make up the position and go into P1 in this race. But he still has to deal with Gurman sitting in P3, who will look to keep close. And he almost loses the back end out of the first Lesmo, and that could have been at the end for his amazing start to this race, but it has not been the start to the actual race itself. Again, now losing 2 positions on lap number 3 we go.
Yep, and I'm losing track of what's going on. My timetables are getting a little bit messed up here. Showing the Real Chad in second, even though he is currently in the lead. But oh, there we go. They kind of just fixed themselves there. But Chappelle really keeping Chad honest, still staying within a second. So once the DRS does activate for real, as your own Vasseur going down the inside of Du Will through Parabolica, but we'll see if he can keep that 7th position, as Du Will gets a little bit of help in terms of the ERS that he's using, and goes down the inside as they're going side by side now into turn 1, and Du Will does get that position back for the time being. But as they're going side by side, we'll see who can get the better of who through the corner. And it does look like as though Du Will does keep that P7, and your own Vasseur, it was still stuck seeing that Haas car in front of him once again.
Rotation is putting pressure on ISRL Gurman, but he has a big issue through the chicane there, and Euclid is now able to catch up to him quite a lot. Rotation, I don't know exactly what happened, and he's disconnected, and now Euclid almost goes into him, and Rotation has had a problem, and he's disconnected from this race, and Euclid, as now there goes, he has left the session. So Rotation having connection issues, big woes for him in P4, and this was looking to be a really nice race. Josh 2 has to contend with one of the Haas's, as on the inside is Duo on Josh 2, and she's just about to get the move done. They're side by side coming out of Escari, and now it's Jerome who's getting involved in this 3-way battle. Josh 2 now is going to get past, as he has problems out of Escari, and he will move down to P8, and here comes Jerome on the inside of Duo into the Parabolica, and it's Duo on the outside line, still side by side, almost pushed off track, and still side by side coming out of the Parabolica. There's Jerome, and it's Duo now slotting behind him, and they're about to pass the disconnected car of Rotation, but here comes Josh 2, still trying to get involved. They might go 3 wide coming into turn 1, but here goes Jerome, has the inside line, now the outside line. They bump wheels a little bit, but it's Duo with the better exit. He has the middle lane, but no, he actually gets clogged up here. It's 3 wide through the Curva Grande. On the inside is Jerome, and they're still side by side. The battle of the year right here, still side by side, and Josh 2 taking the Sebastian Vettel line on the grass, and now he's going to get ahead of Jerome, who gets off track, gets pushed a little bit off track, and now Josh 2 slots behind Du Will, who leads them all the way in P4, and that was an amazing battle side by side, 3 wide through multiple corners, and oh, there's a spin! Somebody's had a spin and a crash, it looks like, and that looked to be Feral Fury, or somebody, I believe. Feral Fury may have had that problem, but it looked like somebody had a spin round. I'm not too sure who that was. I didn't see it, but it looked like, a big lockup, and big crash, and that's Yarno and Feral Fury, and they've had a crash off track, and they clipped, looked like Feral Fury clipped Yarno, coming into Ascari. That's a yellow flag in Sector 3. Are we going to see a virtual safety car deployed possibly? There was a bit of debris on track, but no, nonetheless, we go back under green racing conditions. But on lap number 5, ISRL Chappelle has actually been leading this Italian Grand Prix. Real Chad is in the slipstream, though, and he's looking to get back ahead of him. Gurman is now caught back up in P3 as well, and Euclid has a penalty of 3 seconds, so he's the first driver. As you can see, the new graphic they've added on the recent update, we do have now penalties on the side there. You can see who has penalties. Euclid is the first man with a 3-second time penalty in this race.
Yep, and Chappelle passing Chad right around the same time as we saw that nice three-wide battle through Curva Grande about a lap ago now, as you were talking us through that. And I'm already seeing VR and Phil Fury opting for a bit of an early pit stop. I'm not too sure if they caught some wing damage, and it's that rotation as well, falling down the order in 15th. Being overtaken by quite a few cars, so I'm not too sure what happened there to lose so much time. But still, with this battle for the lead, it's still anyone's race to play for between Chappelle and Chad, staying very close together, and even Gernman keeping both of them honest while still staying within a second, so all within DRS. But other than that, it's still Duwill, Josh, and your own Visser. So you have a yellow flag in Sector 2. I think that might have been one of the Renault drivers potentially going a little bit slow, as thankfully rotation has joined back in, but might be a little too late as he's down in 16th, so going to have a lot of work to do. As Josh 2 now is looking to make a move on Duwill, looking to take the outside lane into turn 1. It's still who's going to get the better of who. It looks like as if Duwill does get the better traction, does get the better exit, and keeps that P4.
Josh 2 in the slipstream, though, still now coming on the Curva Grande. He might look for the outside lane. Duwill covers it. Now he might have the outside lane coming into the next chicane here, and it's not going to happen. Duwill keeps it nice and well. Nice defending from Duwill as he stays in P4. Josh 2, though, will keep him under pressure, and he gets pretty close in that first braking zone in the Lesmo, but loses the back end a little bit. Now that allows Jerome possibly to close back in on this P3, on this three-way fight that they've had just a few laps ago, and it's still very much underway. But now Josh 2 still losing time, actually, and Jerome gaining a lot of time on Josh 2 as they come towards the Ascari chicane. But there's been a lot of incidents. I have no gaps on me right now, so I can't tell you necessarily what's going on. Real Chad, though, I want to mention, very close to Efro Chappelle, as Efro Chappelle running quite wide out of the Parabolica, and now coming onto that DRS straight with some help of maybe some ERS. Real Chad may be able to make the overtake. In fact, he's gaining and gaining and gaining on Chappelle. Now he's going to make a move on the inside, coming into turn 1. And here we go. Battle for the lead of the Italian Grand Prix, side by side, out the exit of turn 1. And it looks to be Chappelle who has the better exit. Gurman trying to find a lane, though. And here comes Real Chad. Real Chad has the inside on, coming into the Curva Grande. Is it going to be a Grande move from Chad? And it is going to be a Grande move, just about ahead by about a front wing. But Chappelle has the outside lane, and he's going to keep the position. Stays back in P1. Real Chad just about had it around the Curva Grande, but he wasn't able to keep the move stuck, and he goes back down to P2. Josh 2 has now picked up a penalty of 3 seconds after it looks to be cutting the second chicane corner there, and now behind Duwill, trying to keep as close as possible to that Haas car, with now Jamian in P6 passing Jerome. So Jamian now in this three-way battle for P4. But it is Chad still chasing down Chappelle for the first place in this race.
Yeah, and looking at the gaps, it really seems as though the battles are for just P1, P2, P3, and then seemingly from P4 all the way down into P11. Nobody really giving anybody any room or any peace. As I'm seeing Sophion looking to put some pressure on the end and very close. And even your own Visser might be looking to make an overtake on Jamie. One actually does overtake Jamie. Is that Jamie going into the pits? No, that wasn't Jamie going into the pits. Jamie having struggling, potentially struggling out of the exit of Parabolica potentially, and really having to U-turn the car to then
Real Chad making a move towards the second chicane here on the inside here of Efro Chappelle. And oh, there's issues, and now Gurman's going to pass him as well. They're still side by side though, and Gurman able to take advantage on the inside into the first Lesmo. Still having the outside line is Real Chad. Real Chad still on the outside, and whoa, Real Chad gets back P2. But that was a big issue for Chad, who tried to make an inside move in the second chicane, but it didn't work for him. Gurman almost got him into P2, and unfortunately though, Chad, for him, has had some really good defense and keeps P2 away from ISRL Gurman, who's still looking to make up some positions after that poor start here in the race.
Yep, and just seeing, just to follow up, Jamie 1 not having the race he was hoping for, actually retiring from the session, so settling for last, P20, after that retirement here on lap 8, seemingly in the pits, as Santa Reca actually overtakes Jeroen Visser, it looks like, on the lead up into Parabolica, but we'll see if Jeroen Visser can battle back with the help of VRS, as looks like Santa Reca goes way wide and almost we almost see some contact between Santa Reca and Jeroen Visser as they're going 3 wide, and Santa Reca just has no pace between Andin and Jeroen Visser, who are still now side by side going into turn 1. So it's still anybody's position to play for, as it looks like Andin is able to take that P6. And now Jeroen Visser and Santa Reca are side by side through Curva Grande. So Santa Reca coming right back at this battle to try to take that position right back. And are they going to go 3 wide into turn 4?
No, I don't think there's enough width in turn 4 to make a 3 wide battle right there. But as you said, what a battle right there. Santa Reca and Jerome making a bit of contact coming out of turn 2. And that could have been a disaster for Santa Reca, who looked to react the most in that battle. But battles up and down the grid, so forget anything I said about a DRS train. It has been a battle train in this Italian Grand Prix. We're on lap number 9 so far.
Speaking of battle, I'm taking a look at riding on board with Carter, where after abysmal qualifying, Santa
Reca.
Yep, I got the nice little onboard with Carter there, clipping, potentially missing the exit of the Ascari chicane there, and thankfully for him, is still surviving and is able to trek on, potentially at worst some wing damage, but at least that's not his race over. But with Carter, from starting all the way down in P20th, up into 6th now on the medium tires, so definitely not letting his qualifying performance phase him all that much, as he's right up there, right up into the back of Jeroen Visser and Andin, and looking in a very strong position, at least early on here in the race, to take a decent points for as the lone Mercedes driver remaining here in the Italian Grand Prix.
As I have to mention, Efro Chappelle did make a pit stop. For the first of the top 3 have made their pit stops. Duo going into P3 provisionally for the moment. So Chappelle is going to go on to the medium compound tire. And yes, he will. Now he will go till the end of the race, most likely, given, of course, there aren't any other issues. There is a big battle right now for P8 right now, though, as Cohen paddling this big train of cars, which is End of the World, Santa Reca, Rotation, and Knight also. Chappelle a little bit further back. He'll be looking to get into that battle soon on those new medium compound tires. Knight a little bit further back than he'd like to be, but this is going to be a big battle right now. End of the World looking to get close to Cohen, but he has a bit of an issue out of Ascari, and that allows Santa Reca, and now Rotation going side by side of Santa Reca, though. Again, no pace for that McLaren so far in this race, and he slots behind the Alfa Romeo, who makes the move well before the Parabolica, as he's now on the inside of the Haas of End of the World. Rotation is just making up places, but he goes into the pit lane. So
and that's actually, yeah, elsewhere. I just saw it quickly going as they were going through Parabolica, that Sweet Crown 19, having a little bit of a moment and actually getting into the pits now after having spun his car around on the exit of Parabolica. Maybe putting a little bit too much power on the car. Maybe it's the tire wear, given those soft tires were nearing 10 laps old. But not the showing he was probably hoping for here around Monza, and definitely not the showing we're used to seeing from Sweet Crown 19.
So Gurman still leads this race. Do Will in P2. ISRL Carter will look to probably take the lead of this Italian Grand Prix, sitting in P3, starting from P20, and those pit stops should be coming soon for Do Will and Gurman, who will look to react to Chappelle.
I was going to say expect them this lap, because from what I was seeing, I just rode with Santa Reca, and through turn 4 and turn 5, Santa Reca had a moment on the exits, so I do think those soft tires are starting to feel the wear, and there we go.
Do Will go out, because Do Will does go into the pit. So ISRL Carter is going to take the lead of the Italian Grand Prix. I don't believe he thought he'd be feeling the P1 vibes starting all the way down in P20. But nonetheless, ISRL Carter, there you are, leader of the Italian Grand Prix, number 24, doing well after the issues he had in Q1. End of the World on the inside. In the P2 on Cohen. Chappelle is up in the P4 right now. And side by side, Real Chad and ISRL Knight. Real Chad gets the position, though. Knight having a little bit of a wobble, and that was not good. Gurman comes out of the pit lane in P7 with Real Chad in P5.
Look at Chappelle. Look at the pace Chappelle has on those fresh medium tires. Cohen maybe caught on the exit of turn 2, getting a little bit of oversteer, having to go towards the inside. So Chappelle said, "Thank you very much. I will take that third."
Real Chad's had a disconnect.
Oh no!
And that is not good.
Oh no!
Real Chad
not good if you're.
Disconnect.
Yep, especially just after the pit stop. Yep. So hopefully he can get back in sooner rather than later to not lose out on too much time. But Knight and Gernman, who are actually right behind him, probably maybe a little bit happy about that, as it makes it a relatively easy position to overtake and earn that much extra points, if the race finished right now, at least for that Red Bull team. But it's still Carter leading the way with a nice 5-second gap to Chappelle, and with that clean air, Carter's looking to be in a pretty decent spot to hopefully create a gap.
I don't want to. I really don't want to burst the bubble there, but it was a 7-second gap the last lap, so it's actually gone down 2 seconds from the last lap to this lap. So Chappelle is really putting on the pressure right now, as Carter's medium tires are starting to be a little bit more worn than he'd like to be with Chappelle on those new medium tires. So it is it's a gap, but it's not going to be a gap for too much longer. Rotation goes fast. It's actually in a 1:21 time, as Rotation is currently in P14. Still a lot of ways to go before he can get some really considerable points on the board.
Yep, and Rotation stuck with, stuck near the likes of, your own Visser and Rotation, Duwill and Sophion battling it out. It looks like Duwill overtook Sophion. Sophion tried a little bit of a switchback move on the exit of turns 5. Didn't quite work out for him, as Sophion is still in 11th, but keeping up the pressure coming through the Lesmos. And we'll see if he can close the gap enough. No, Duwill just has a much better exit and basically runs away down the straight, leading into the Ascari complex.
And Sophion still following Duwill. Duwill sitting in P10, still much in the points. As again, no gaps on my side, and I'm getting a application suspending.
Look at.
So I'm getting an issue. My application's about to suspend in 15 minutes. I can't verify the license. Hope that's not the case, because I am connected to the internet. PlayStation, don't do this to me. We're on lap 14 nonetheless, but if that does happen, then just have Fallen Monkeys be ready for anything.
Yep, I will be ready for that, as I was just watching Gernman making a very quick work of Cohen. So Gernman going back up into 4th, so making that pit stop work for him, up into 4th, and actually very close to end of the world, as he's battling to work his way back up the order and get back into one of those podium paying positions.
So Carter is ahead by 3.1 seconds in the lead of this Italian Grand Prix. A pit stop will be due in order soon, as Chappelle is gaining a lot of time on him in this race. So if we look on board with Carter, his tires aren't looking that bad, though. The graining is looking pretty reasonable, as we would expect where he currently is, but Chappelle's newer medium tires clearly at a much faster pace, so Carter losing a tenths of time just about every turn. We'll see when Carter decides to make that pit stop, but currently leading the Italian Grand Prix with lots of penalties being flown all over the place in this race right now.
Yeah, they're really starting to fall, as we can see on the timing board. Lots of little penalty icons there, as I'm actually watching your own Visser putting the pressure on Andon for 12th in this little 4-car battle, I guess we could say. But Andon doing a decent job of defending down the inside, but they got a little bit close there. I don't know if your own Visser is going to be too happy about that, but at least they're still side by side coming through turn 1 and 2. And it does look like as if Andon just has the better exit, but your own Visser not giving up through Curva Grande doesn't look like might look to make a lunge down the inside going into turn 4. No, thinks better of it.
Ooh, but the switchback. Andon has a problem out of that exit, out of that chicane. He might make a move at the Lesmo. No. Andon does leave the door open, and then Jerome is invited almost back in, but that was a very, very risky move to make. So he decides against it. Jerome is right on the back of Andon. Andon is having problems out of the first two Lesmos. Really didn't get the exit he would like to have. Josh, too, is down a position, it looks like, as he had a disconnect as well. He does. Josh, too, is not in this race right now. His car is ghosted. And cars are disconnecting left and right. I don't know if it's because of the issue I just possibly saw with a license verification issue. If you're not aware, on PlayStation, if you have a digital game, it has to have the license verified. I don't know if people's licenses are being de-verified. I hope that's not the case, because you might see my man, ISRL X, myself, out of this race quite soon, if that is the case. But that may be the problem. Again, we're missing Delta times. I don't know why that's happening. It's a great game, Codemasters. It's a great game we've developed. But nonetheless, Carter went into the pits, and he comes out in P15. So that was a big drop in positions, but still in the points. So that's really nothing to complain about. If you started in P20, at least you are in the points, and he will have the newest tires out of everybody, the softest tires out of everybody. So he will be happy with his pace, I'm sure, and can make up some really good positions come into the race.
Oh yeah, and definitely with a little bit of tire management, looking very poised to take it for a nice little one-stop to the end of the race. It looks like the real Chad from his pit stop overtaking Cohen to go up into fourth right around the Ascari complex, as he's looking to catch up now to End of the World to get back into the battle for the win for the podium. Carter overtaking Feral Fury, it looks like, leading into Ascari, as Carter's going very fast early on those soft tires, setting a purple second sector so far in the race. And there we go, as End of the World dives into the pits, and so does Cohen for that matter. That is the real Chad back up into the podium, up into third, and looking to close up that 5.5 second gap to Gernman now to battle for second.
And it is Real Chad in P3 now with that pass. And now Gurman in P2 with Ephraim Chappelle in P1. So Gurman, despite getting jumped on the pit stops, has actually gone ahead of Real Chad. So Real Chad down in P3, a bit of the loser right now in terms of this pit stop battle that they had here. Euclid in P4, P5 for Do Will on new medium tires, so he's in a good position right now with, as you can see, Carter right now in P12, so he has already made up some positions due to some pit stops, but there are penalties galore in this Italian Grand Prix. Not too sure what's going to happen near the end of the race, who is going to be dropping where after penalties. But there's a big train of cars right now, starting with Do Will in P5, with Sophion and Josh 2, the two Ferraris in 6th and 7th. So they're in a nice position to make up some positions. And already Sophion really catching up to the back of Do Will. He's going to look to make possibly a move at the Parabolica. Thinks better of it, but should make it on this DRS straight. Given that he has a good exit, and he does have a good exit. Do Will, a bit of a sitting duck right now in this Italian Grand Prix. The DRS activated, ERS is activated. Here comes Sophion. He's going to make a move on the inside of Do Will, and he should just make it. And I thought Josh 2.
Yeah, I think that's Josh 2's slight connection issues.
But in fact, he gets ahead of Do Will.
Yeah, actually, I just noticed that. Josh 2, I'm not too sure what happened to Do Will on the exit of turn 2, losing so much time that Josh 2, or I guess Josh 2's Ghost, has actually overtaken, but there we go.
Josh 2 has a disconnect, and now he's all the way down at the bottom. He's left the session.
Yeah, crazy scenes.
What's going on in the
I don't even know either what to say about what's happening here with Josh. He's all the way down into supposedly 20th now with that disconnect. But I guess for us, we will trek on, as I'm seeing your own Visser putting the pressure on Do Will, making it seem like he's going to try a lunge down the inside, but very smartfully decides to hold off for the time being, remain in 6th, and probably do it at a much safer spot. But keeping that gap very close, only a 10th behind Do Will, and slight little.
He's still hitting the back of Do Will. That was
basically pushing him around Parabolica, and look at the exit your own Visser has. With those, Do Will gets.
Oh my goodness, Do Will almost cut across. Jerome, that could have been a major accident.
Yeah, it's crazy, and now they're getting Sophion involved in this battle just through the speed that they both had through the start finish straight. But it's still all that craziness for the order to remain the same for the time being.
Now
but
Andon's going to get involved.
Oh yeah, look at that right behind Andon. Yeah, getting involved, and I think Rotation might want to get involved too. Rotation locks up going into turn 4 and loses a lot of time. Andon looking to go down the inside through the first Lesmos of Jeroen Vasseur.
What a move, and into the second Lesmo, still side by side, and now Jeroen Vasseur. Oh, they made contact, and that was almost a disaster, but Andon somehow saved the car. He has DRS, though, on Jeroen Vasseur. Jeroen Vasseur, though, also has DRS, but he does not have the slipstream with the DRS that he had with Duwell, as Andon will look to keep close of Jeroen Vasseur and keep up that battle. But Duwell currently trying to close the timing up on Sophion. Sophion currently in P4, lap 20 of 27 in this race. FRL Chappelle leading the Italian Grand Prix. Gurman in second position. Real Chad in third position. Sophion in P4. Duwell in P5. Side by side a little bit is Andon and Rotation, but Andon has the move on Rotation. Now Rotation may look to make a move on the outside, and he is going to make a move on the outside. Very late braking into the first turn. Now looks to have the inside with his front wing, but he does not have it. Andon keeps P7 away from Rotation. Carter is up into P9. He is making up a lot of progress on that soft compound tire. Now towards the end of the race, those tires will start to struggle quite a bit. Hopefully he can keep it all okay through the rest of the race, but Carter picking up a lot of positions. Carter, yeah, okay.
And if Carter can... I was going to say, if Carter can catch up to this battle that we're seeing here for basically... It seems P4 all the way down to P8. It's only a 2.5 second gap. With those soft tires, if he can manage the wear well in terms of pushing to catch up, he might be in a very decent spot, a very nice spot, to potentially get a few overtakes and get a nice little bit of points haul so far in this race. I believe he's currently sitting on the fastest lap of the race as well. So that is an extra point going his way, assuming that stays the way it is for the time being. But with a lot of drivers now on fresh soft tires, it's still anybody's fastest lap to play for as well.
Jeroen Vasseur chasing down Duwell. Duwell chasing down Sophion, but Sophion will play pretty safe, so will Duwell. Duwell looked on the inside, but does not make a challenge. Look at the late break from Jeroen. Oh my goodness. All the way up to the rear diffuser of Duwell, just keeping the car stopped. But that was an amazing late break, and now is actually giving Jeroen the opportunity to make a pass on Duwell. They're coming out of the Curva Grande, and now Jeroen about to go side by side possibly with Duwell, but he decides against it. But he was very close to making an overtake. Now Andon looking to make another move on the inside into Lesmo again. Andon with a move. What a move it was. He's looking now at the second Lesmo.
My goodness.
This time he does it. And there's no big contact. And oh my goodness, Rotation is the man who comes off worst. There was Rotation from the back end of, well, no pun intended, but there was a problem from the back end, and he got rotated and into a wall. Looks to save the car and not too much damage.
And that's Sophion into the wall and out of the race through the exit of Ascari. Sorry to cut you off there.
And it's a VSC.
Brings out the VSC, but gonna give us a little bit of a break to take in what just what happened there, because we saw Rotation getting into a little bit of contact with Jeroen Vasseur. I'm not too sure how much of it looked to be very accidental, just in terms of battling around the Lesmos. But that was Sophion as well on lap 21, just losing it on the exit of Ascari, driving right into the wall and just taking a little bit too much speed.
And, oh no, Cohen has a drive-through penalty, sitting in P10, speeding under the safety car, and he is not going to be happy about that one in the points in his first race here in ISRL, and that is going to be a pit lane penalty for him. Drive-through penalty at the end. He sped up a little bit too fast, and he gained a penalty for being negative at the start of the green flag conditions in this race. So disappointment for him. And look at all the comments in the stream. Thank you, everybody, for supporting us. I'm looking on board of Carter right now because he is absolutely flying in this Italian Grand Prix, sitting in P7. I have another yellow flag somewhere that looked to be maybe one of the Williams drivers. Not too sure. Sweetcar 19 all the way down in P16 and P17 for Feral Fury. And look at Carter. Carter with massive slipstream now on look to be Jerome Visser, and now he's going to make the move, and Carter moves up in the P6. Jerome may look to challenge back on the inside, but it's not going to happen. Carter is on a roll right now, sitting in P6, maybe looking at P5 very soon as well, because Andon now
he's going to eat Andon up. Oh, my goodness. Look. Oh, actually, no, never mind.
Well, he wasn't necessarily in the slipstream. He's using a bit of overtake. He may make an outside lunge on the outside, and he is going to make that lunge. He tries it. He now has the inside line, a bit of a bump on Andon. And Carter now still on the outside, coming into the Curva Grande now, and Carter looking to make a move, and then Andon just gets it. But now Carter may have the better exit coming out of the Curva Grande, and he's slowing up another VSC. So we have another VSC. Sweetcar's out of the race. He's out of the race.
I'm looking to see.
Did he have a crash? I'm not.
That was at the. It was at the exit of Ascari. I'm not too sure if he crashed or if he just retired on track. That I'm not too sure. I didn't quite get to see what happened. But I guess either way, we've got another VSC here on lap 23, and it looks like it's all kicking off now.
Unbelievable scenes here. Sweetcar 19 is out of the Italian Grand Prix. Another virtual safety car. The game has elected not to bring out the full safety car on both of it looks to be Ascari accidents. Yarno now has a drive-through penalty, speeding under safety car, and he will be in a drive-through penalty situation again. P16 for him, and this is just not the race he would like to have. Carter has a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings, but I don't think he cares too much. He's just happy to be where he is right now. P6 right now in this race. Starting in P20, he's in the slipstream of both Duwil and Andon. Andon now looking to make an outside move in the turn one. Duwil has now the outside line on this occasion. Carter with a switchback, and he might just get the move on both of them.
And there's contact behind of Duwil and your own Vasseur.
Duo and Young Vasseur have contact, but still racing is Carter, and he looks to make a move on the outside, possibly coming onto Andon, and he's going to possibly make the move on the inside. No, he doesn't, and there's no safety car deployed of any kind for that kind of contact, but Jerome Vasseur and Duwil made contact. It was almost inevitable of how close all those guys were racing, but I have to, unfortunate action as it is, we have to keep on board of Carter because he is right on the slipstream of Andon, and he is going to make the move, and up in the P4 is ISRL Carter on lap 24 of 27, and from P20 to P4, it has been an absolutely astounding race for the Mercedes driver.
Yeah, crazy showing, and now looking very strong to get that P4 here on lap 25 out of 27 with 2 laps to go now, just about here in the race, or 3 laps to go, I guess I should say, in the race if we count lap 25. As Carter just starting lap 25 there, and who is that off in sector 2?
That looks to be the Ferrari of Josh 2.
Oh, that was the Ferrari of Josh 2, yep. And seeing Duwil falling down the order as well, going a little bit slow, probably having to trek around, so not what he was hoping for with such a strong showing in the race. And rotation overtaking Young Stinson down the start-finish straight as well.
Duwil's out of the race. Duwil is out of the race. He's had a crash somewhere. I think it's out of Ascari. Yes, it was. And there's also the Ferrari of Josh 2. But Duwil is out of the race. No, actually retired in the pit lane, I think.
Yeah, so I think that might have been the Ferrari potentially of Josh 2, or Josh 2's ghost, I guess I could say, taking a little bit of a slower line through the Ascari complex. But no, Duwil does retire in the pit lane after being caught up in that incident this late in the race.
VR46 Yarno gets fastest lap of the race, by the way, on the penultimate lap as we come in with a 1:20 time there. But we're heading near the end of the race. Carter is still in P4, about a second ahead of Andon. Andon does have 2 penalties. I'm not too sure how many Carter has. I believe he also has 2
as well.
2 as well, so they may just cancel out, and Carter may keep P4, but he has to keep it clean the rest of the race. And Jerome Vasseur has also gained another 3-second time penalty. Lots of penalties in this race. In fact, Real Chad is the only man on track without one. And he sits P3 with Gurman in P2 with penalties, and Efro Chappelle with penalties as well. So Real Chad may be looking at a possibility of getting a higher up in the grid here today. He's 4.4 seconds behind Gurman. I don't know how many penalties Gurman has, but he may be able to pick up second position here in this race.
Yeah, so you can actually take a look at the penalties, and I was taking a look at that now. Chappelle and Gurnman both have 3 seconds so far. Real Chet, as you mentioned, driving a very clean race. And then behind that we have Carter and Andon with 6 seconds each, with Neron Vasseur with only 3 seconds of penalties in this battle for 4th, 5th, and 6th. So if Neron Vasseur can really close up the gap and put his really make a big push, he might be able to earn a few extra positions under the in terms of penalties.
And we begin the final lap. Efrael Chappelle leads the Italian Grand Prix here on the final lap. ISRL Gurman in P2. Real Chad in P3. 3.8 seconds is the gap. He's got somebody ahead of him. That's Yarno, who's ghosting on track. Of course, getting lapped. Real Chad is lapping him right now, and he still also has Josh 2 ahead of him. He will be lapping him soon as well, most likely. But there's a bit of a pass down the grid. It looks to be a Euclid making a DRS pass, nice and clean on ISRL Knight, who is in P10 at the moment. And Knight will be pretty happy to be up there in P10. Not a bad showing from him, as he started way down the order as well. But Carter on the final lap is in P4 in this race. Whoever he finishes in P5 after Jerome possibly passes him, it has been an absolutely amazing showing from ISRL Carter, who I think, in my opinion, given he survives this lap, is our driver of the day right here. A masterful performance from ISRL Carter. As here comes Efrael Chappelle across the line to win the Italian Grand Prix. ISRL Gurman will come across the line to come in P2. Now, Real Chad is going to come across the line. Does he move up a spot? No, he does not. Only P3, but it is still a podium on his debut, and he will be very, very happy to be in that position. ISRL Carter is now going to come across the line and finish in P4. Andon will finish in P5. Where does Jerome finish? Does he jump the both of them? And he does not. He will stay P6. So Carter with an amazing P4 finish in this Italian Grand Prix, and what a race it was for him. P20 to P4, and that is definitely driver of the day material if I ever saw it.
Oh yeah, definitely solid drive from Carter, bringing that Mercedes from P20 all the way up into 4th. Strong strategy showing, and definitely paid dividends for him here in this race. And taking a nice haul of points for that Mercedes team in that Constructors' Championship, but more importantly, definitely a confidence booster here at the end of the season for the last few races, as he wins driver of the day as far as the game is concerned as well. But nice drive, Carter. Happy for you with that P4, and we'll see in the coming race if he can capitalize on that strong showing.
So what an amazing race, that amazing Italian Grand Prix. The champagne flies, and are you joking me? Are you kidding me? Gurman almost saved. I thought we were saved. Gurman is using the Crimson Chin Michael Schumacher avatar. All the people who use Michael Schumacher's avatar are off of the grid. I thought, at least, because Gurman's the one who uses it. Again, the Crimson Chin's on the podium. Can I avoid a Michael Schumacher avatar on the podium? It's infuriating. It doesn't happen here today, but Chappelle wins it. Gurman in second, third for Chad, fourth for Carter, fifth for Andon, Jerome Visser in sixth, seventh for Ed of the World, Euclid in eighth, ninth for Knight, 10th for Santaruca, rotation in 11th, P12 for Feral Fury, Cohen in 14th, 14th for Stinson, 13th for Cohen, 15th for Yarno, Josh 2 and 16th, 17th for Duwill, 18th for Sweet Crown, 19th for Sophion, and P20 is Jamien's spot. A not so great race for the Mercedes driver there. with lots of incidents in this race. But nonetheless, that was your Italian Grand Prix, and I am now slightly more depressed due to the Crimson Chin reappearing on my screen today. As I don't know if we're going to be doing any podium interviews. I'm not hearing anything from my man in the co-commentator booth.
Oh, sorry about that. I'm just looking to get the some invites sent off for the post-race interviews, and we have Chappelle joining in. It looks like.
I'm just gonna get into the showroom. And we'll bring the Alfa Romeo up.
Got Gernman just looking to send off that invite to Real Chat as well. But Chappelle, can you hear us just in the meantime?
Yes.
Perfect. So another victory here in the Tier 1 race, bringing your car up from P4 after qualifying up to the win. Take us through it. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it was a good fight with Chad and German at the start. Then I went for the undercut and got through traffic pretty quickly, and it was pretty unlucky that Chad disconnected after that, and yeah, it was just a straight going fast and get no penalties after that.
Oh, did I hear that right? Did you say Chad disconnected?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, okay. Oh my goodness, I didn't even realize that. I mean, definitely paid... No, definitely. I mean, definitely paid off for you, and I mean, I'm sure happy with the position. So, I kind of missed a little bit. Did you stick to your strategy right from the get-go, or did you have to change it up a little bit as the race went along in terms of those VSCs and all the other changes going on in the race?
I thought about doing an overcut, but then my tires were so dead that I just pitted 2 laps earlier.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, definitely worked out for you in terms of the strategy. And Ix, anything to add to that at all?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was a pretty... Yeah, no, we're not... I wasn't going to add anything to it. You know, whatever. But I will add, the next interview is with ISRL German. Finally, the Red Bull drivers have a really awesome performance that is purely based on pure performance. German, you win, or you don't win, but you get P2 in the... Oh my goodness, somebody insulted. It's Stunik, I'm calling you out. You insulted me in the chat. I'm not happy about it. But, German, you get P2 in this race, and you must be very, very happy. Pole position in the race as well.
Yeah, I got out early for the, for quality and got the pole. I didn't think I would get pole. I thought, Shep Pele, whatever you call it, would get it, but I got it, and I just didn't have a good start really, and I didn't have the pace of him, so I'm happy with second.
So it was a good race nonetheless. Fallen, do you have anything to add on?
Taking a look, so from P1 to from P1, and it looked like as though Real Chad really got the better review off the start. So, do you mind me asking what happened there, German, off of the start of the race? Was it just a mistiming with the lights, or was it just sort of I think Chad just having the better traction off the line?
Yeah, better traction. I need to work on my starts because I usually lose positions in the starts, so it's quite difficult.
Oh, okay. But I mean, still, thankfully for you, it still came out with a solid finish here in P2, and that's a nice haul of points for the Red Bull team. So congratulations, actually, congrats to both of you on the finish. And yeah, and I don't think we're gonna have Chad joining in for that post-race interview, so I think we might be able to call it here. So I'll let you take us through and finish things off for us, Ix.
It was an amazing Italian Grand Prix. Efro Chappelle winning it, German in P2, and it is Real Chad on his debut in P3. Thank you so much for watching the ISRL Esports Tier 1 live coverage of this Italian Grand Prix. My name is ISRL X, and I was joined by Phone Monkeys in the commentary booth. Make sure to join us in just a few weeks' time for the Japanese Grand Prix. It's going to be a good one, ladies and gentlemen. And again, thank you so much for everybody who has joined today live in the race. And leave a like on the stream if you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel and go to the Discord server on our website, ISRLesports.com, if you're interested in joining today. Again, this is ISRL signing off once more. Have yourselves a wonderful day.